This tutorial is going to teach you how to make a quick bag tag or key tag with Tinkercad. Tinkercad is a super easy to use software package that will allow you to do 3D design without necessarily spending a lot of time getting into it. If you enjoy 3D design and you want to do more, I suggest you move up to Fusion 360, which is also available to you in the Media Center. If you go to tinkercad.com, you're going to choose Join Now and follow the prompts if you don't have an account yet, and you're going to do Sign In if you already have an account. If you haven't set your account up yet, press pause, go ahead, go through those steps, and then come on back and do it when you're ready. I'm going to log into my account, and this is the same account you're going to use for Fusion if you go on to other stuff. This is all based in the cloud so that you're going to use the same thing in a classroom, at home, wherever you are working on your files. They're going to be available to you. You'll see that your files are going to automatically come up once you log in. They're going to have weird names like Daring Go-Go Snicket, or if you've named a file yourself, for example, name tag, it'll come up. So normally the first thing you want to do is start a new design, and the first thing I want to do after clicking on Create New Design is give it a name that makes some sort of sense, because those silly names they come up with are not going to stick with you very long if you've got a lot of them. I'm going to change my Grand Hango Wasa to Bag, try again, Bag Tag, hit enter, and now that's the name of your file. If you take a look at the screen, your basic setup, you've got your view cube here, and you can rotate your view. We want to look at the top, so just click on the word top, and now the entire work plane is visible. Work plane is going to be the surface you put things on, and to put on the work plane is the ruler. If you click on the ruler and then move out on the screen, you don't have to drag, it'll just come with you. And we want to click in the lower left hand corner, roughly bottom left, doesn't have to be exact because our project isn't that big. Once we've done that, we're ready for our first primitive shape. The basic shapes are down here on the right hand side, and although some of them look more fun, we're going to just start with a box. Click on the box, come out on the screen, and click with it just in the general area in the lower part, because the first thing we're going to do is change the dimensions. The first thing we want to do is set the height is going to be 40, the width is going to be 100, and the thickness, that's that last dimension over there on the right hand side, we want it to be 3. Now, it all depends on how you look at it. This could be the height, or that could be the height. So be flexible on what things are called and go more with what the illustrations show. See on your screen is be what you're going to get. So I've ended up with 103. The last two dimensions I'm seeing are the ruler dimensions here, and if I change those to 0 and 0, it'll jump down and line up with the edge. On the left hand side of the screen, I've got some tools. If I click on the Fit View and Selection, it'll zoom in so that I can see my object more easily, and sometimes that's easier than doing the touch screen. You can move it with your fingers on the touch screen also. Okay. Now you should have your basic rectangle for that bag tag. If you don't have your rectangle right yet, stop and fix it before you go on. Next thing we want to do is add a hole. And to do that, we're going to take the cylinder, click on it, come out on the screen, and we're going to click somewhere around the left hand side of the tag. We're going to be able to move it. I'm going to click on the screen, and I'm going to change the dimensions of my hole from 5 to 5. Notice I got to change both of them to have it still come out round. The one dimension I don't want to change is the actual height. I'm going to use my right mouse button to flip to the front. You can also just take your view cube and hit front, and you can see that it's 3 millimeters. It does, as long as it's taller than the 3 millimeter thickness that we've got, because you can think of this as a giant cookie cutter file. If it was be orange or whatever color we chose. We want it to be a hole, so we're going to click on hole. Anything can be made into a hole. Once we've got it set up, I want to set the dimension from the edge to the center. I want to change this number, if I can, to 4 to set it back from the edge just the right amount. Once we've got that set up, the next thing we want to do is go upper left to lower right. And it doesn't have to completely circle the two objects. You just have to be touching the objects to have it select them. Once we've got it selected, over on the menu, we're going to go to Align. When you click on Align, we're going to be able to see how the alignment is going to change. If you just hover your mouse over each of the alignment dots, it'll show you where that cylinder is going to go. And we want it here in the center. Once we click, it will move to that location. Now, we've moved the cylinder there, but it still hasn't punched through. So one more time, we need to select both pieces, and again, just upper left to lower right so that all are touched. And then you're going to use the group icon on the menu. Once they're grouped, the cylinder itself will disappear, and you should now see, and I'm just using my rolly mouse, whoops, a little too far. I can now zoom in, and there is my view cube. I can rotate to the bottom all the way through. Go back to the top. Doesn't want it. You can rotate it. And if it's close to being straight, it'll jump to straight. At this point, it's going to be slightly different because of the click on work plane and click on the surface of your tag. The work plane will turn yellow, indicating you're doing a different surface. Now anything we do will go on the top surface of the tag rather than the top surface of the original workspace. We're going to scroll down till we get to text. Click on text and come out on your screen. Get it roughly in the right place. Click with your mouse and the dialog box will open up. It will tell you that it is text, and we're going to simply backspace over the text and change to our name instead. And I'm going to type in my name. Once I type in my name, you'll notice that it may not fit. If you use the black handles on either side, that little square on the box is called a handle, and we're going to simply drag those handles in. Now, one thing that's a little tricky is the blue outline is showing the three-dimensionality of this. The line that we care about is the little dotted line, not the actual blue outline of the letters or whatever color they happen to be. If my name is short, I can also drag up and drag the handle down so that I can make it fit a little better and take up more room on the screen. Once I've got it set the way I want it and I'm happy with how my text looks, I'm going to go ahead and turn it into a hole. Now, I'm going to use my right mouse button. You can also use the view cube, and you can also use the touch screen on your laptop to drag and look at the side view. I'm not quite on the, but I'm entire part 3 million product O's circles, and those are not going to print. They'll just font and be like donut. So I want to change the height of my letters. And the height of my letters, I'm going to set to 1.5 millimeters. Now this number is one you can play around with and see how far through you want to make it go. If your name is something like, I don't know, the letter C, that will actually cut all the way through and be all right. The letter R could cut all the way through and be all right. Anything with a hole in it, though, is going to be a problem. So I'm going to start with a 1.5 height. And the other dimension I want to change is how far through the material it goes. So this is the actual height, and the one on the outside is the actual height. If I change this to, say, 5, and I can just wait a second and it will change. I've gone up 5, so it's now up in space. That's not helping me. I need to push down, so my number actually needs to be negative. I'm going to do negative 1.5. That's going to push it 1.5 millimeters into the material. It's 1.5 millimeters thick, and I'm going in 1.5, so it should be right there on the surface. I can rotate that negative 1.5, so it's going all the way through. And once I'm shaping a little bit more, if I wanted to give myself some more edge, once I'm happy with how it looks, I'm again going to group them together to complete that process. So upper left to lower right, so it's touching everything. I'm going to use the group icon, and that's going to punch in, and I should now, when I turn it, be able to see that it's actually going into the material. It's not super obvious, but it is. Once I all the see I should see the writing on the top. If you go too far in, I won't see the word. At this point, you can stop, or we can go ahead and trim the corners off just to make it look a little fancier, just to try out a couple of other things. If this isn't the tag you want to print, feel free to spend extra time playing around with it and bring in the file when you're ready to print it out. But last thing we're going to do is trim our corners. Now, unfortunately, this program is pretty basic, so it doesn't have some of the features the more advanced programs have. Everybody has access to a student version of Fusion 360, and that's a higher end package. For a lot of people, this is all you'll ever need, but we have to do some cheats to make things work. I'm going to take the polygon and move out. Oops, I don't want the polygon yet. I need a work plane. I need to go back to my regular work plane. To go back to my flat work plane, I'm going to drag a work plane into an empty space on the screen, and I should be back at the blue work plane. Before you do this next step, let's make sure you're on a blue work plane. That means everything is going on the flat surface, not on the thickness of the tag. Okay, polygon. That polygon is going to come up on the screen, and we're going to zoom in, and I'm zooming in with my right mouse button. You can also use the plus and minus. I'm going to click with my mouse, and I want to scoot this with my keyboard so the corners line up. Unfortunately, the grid is currently set to 1 millimeter, so if I move with my mouse, it's going to go in bigger steps than I want it to go. So down here on Snap to Grid, I'm going to click on the drop down, and I'm going to change to 0.25 millimeters. You can change to 0.5 depending on what you're doing. Now when I move, it's going to move much more precisely. And I'm going to arrow up and over until that is right on the corner. So I'm going to turn this into a hole by clicking on hole and close that up again so I can see. And if I zoom in, I should now see, whoops, a little too far. Back out again. I'm going to scooch over and up till I get it where I want it. Okay, that's roughly it. I want that corner and this corner to line up because we're going to lop off that other corner. We're now going to use this tool as basically, again, a cookie cutter. Punch a hole. Drag to select both, and I'm just dragging to touch both, and then I'm going to choose group. When I do, it should flash for a second, and then it should make the corner disappear. If you don't like the way it did it, just hit undo and try it again. I'm going to now go down to, try again. Whack. And I'm going to do members that bring it on, but it's solid. Back to what's going selection. Just the process. And then I'm going to go over and again change it to a hole. You're going to where you're lining it up. You can see the dark area where it's going to cut. One more to get that last corner. And again, we're just repeating that 4 times, once for each corner. And I'm going to polygon roughly right. Zoom in the hole. I'm going to move it. And to complete the both. And if you put something together and you changed your mind, you can always highlight both pieces and choose ungroup. Now when I go to fit view in selection, I've got my tag with little nipped off corners. If your name is short or small, or you want to change the size or shape, make sure that you change the size or shape of the rectangle before you group everything together. And you may want to do this twice, once to learn and once to get it just the way you wanted it. Now that we've trimmed off our corners and our file is ready, I'm going to now save it as a printable file. There isn't a save, it's saving as you go, but we want to export. We want to have everything in the design print. If you had 3 or 4 different things, you'd made a little house or something, you might want to just print one part. We want everything in the design. We normally use an STL file. It's going to automatically save it to your downloads. If you go to show all, it's going to show it to you in your downloads. We're going to go to show in folder. If you're going to print it in the media center, easiest thing to do is plug in your memory key. You can see it right here. Right click, send to, and you're going to just choose the name of the memory stick and it will save it out there onto the disk. And now you're ready to get printed. If you don't get to it today, you can also email that file to Ms. Thompson or get with her with your laptop and we'll get you printing out. If you have any questions, Ms. Thompson can help you out. You can come to the Media Center anytime to print out your files, and you can work on this at home anytime.